Hi, everybody. A challenge with this course is that I cannot include all the theories used in research and teaching and learning in higher education. That would be practically impossible within the framework of this course. I do not have prior knowledge to all of these theories, and I doubt anybody else does that either. What we can do, however, is look at theories of learning that overall have influenced the research field. When we talk about learning, the different theories we come across will be related to these overarching theories in one way or other. So, if we can understand these theories, we will understand the basic motifs behind the theories we encounter in teaching and learning in higher education. So, before I move on here, I want to address that one thing that makes me extremely nervous as an academic is when you use the term theory uh, in a way that actually means hypothesis, perhaps. You can often see it in informal discussions, above all when someone tries to argue with someone and claims that, hey, that's actually just a theory, or so I say something like that. By that, the person is then implying that what someone, perhaps me, I'm saying is not true, that there are alternative truths and therefore alternative theories. Not uncommonly, the same person claims to have also knowledge about the truth by communicating a theory of its or her own. So perhaps disproportionately, this disturbs me a lot. When you claim that it's just a theory in this way, then the term theory is used in a way that comes closer, I would argue, to the term hypothesis. An hypothesis is an assumption about a phenomena or a thing that can be investigated using the scientific method. It is thus something that you believe will be observed after you've conducted the research. A theory, on the other hand, is an explanation of some phenomena that or a thing that has been tested and confirmed in accordance with the scientific method. Accordingly, it is what has come out of as a result from several different studies, then condensed into a simplified, idealized description of something that is usually complex and difficult to grasp. A theory is then a system of definitions, statements, assumptions, and/or models that together provide a possible explanation for an absurd phenomenon and give rise to testable predictions. A theory is thus the closest we can get to the truth by using the scientific method. Therefore, scientific claims about gravity, climate change, natural laws, and more, they are called theories. Sure, they can be challenged and even changed as other research comes up with new findings, but it is far from what I would describe here before, where theory becomes just one perspective among others and thus subject to personal opinion. So, as hypothesis is a specific testable prediction about a particular set of circumstances, while a theory is a comprehensive and well substantiated explanation of a broad aspect of the natural and social world based on a large body of evidence. Theories are considered the highest level of scientific understanding and are subject to modification or rejection based on new evidence. But they are not mere speculations or guesses. When we are doing research, you don't always use ready-made theories. Sometimes you do, but not always. It all depends on what you're doing. Briefly and somewhat simplified, what determines how you include a theory is whether you're doing research deductively or inductively. Working deductively means seeking knowledge through theories, hypotheses, and statements. For that reason, one tests whether the theory, hypothesis, or statement holds up by testing it on on some form of material. For example, if you use a theory of dealing with theories of power or hierarchy to understand the relational dynamics in a classroom, you work deductively if you use this theory to see if it's applicable to understanding the dynamics between, for example, a group of students. Accordingly, if you're writing a paper, in order to be able to communicate that you'll be using said theory, a discussion of that theory of power is therefore needed, which is usually inserted at the beginning then of the paper. You start with the theory. On the other hand, if you work more inductively, then you start with the material, and then from that material start to derive theories, hypotheses, and statements after an analysis of the material. Then you can perhaps include the theoretical aspects in the discussion at the end of the paper. So, deductively means starting with a theory and then applying that theory on a material. Inductively means you start with the material, look at it, and then find out, hey, this theory explains what I just found. So this depends on where you start. Starting with the theory or finishing with the theory. So a theory is something that we may use in order to structure and guide our research, or it might be something that is derived from research. Meaning, if something that guides our research, then we work deductively, or if it's something that's derived from a research, then we're working inductively. But after it has been established, this theory, it also becomes usable in real-world settings like teaching and learning in higher education. When we have discovered a theory and we discover that this seems to say something that is actually explains something, then we also, from a research-based perspective, can say that these kinds of, for instance, teaching practices that we studied from this theoretical perspective seems to be a reasonable way of going about doing whatever we want to do. It becomes applicable. So now when we talk about research in teaching and learning in higher education, it is not always easy to identify which theories that are being used within the field. What I feel is specific to this research is that it's not always researchers who started in the field that are the researchers in the field. Most often they come from other fields, which will affect which theories they are using. So, for example, I come from the philosophy of religion and ethics. That's my field of expertise. I have a PhD in philosophy of religion and ethics. Theories in that field are not always the same as the theories that an educational scientist would use. This can pose a practical challenge in that we don't have a common theoretical basis that we can all start from. But I also feel that there is a strength that the research can draw from a great diversity of different theoretical perspectives, which in turn develop the research in teaching, learning, and higher education in quite interesting directions. Looking at my own research, I've written a lot about teaching controversial issues. Here I've noticed that my research is in conflict studies. I've done some research in conflict studies. But that research that I did prior to coming to the field of teaching and learning in higher education has given me certain theories that allow me to understand what a conflict is, which I feel that research in teaching and controversial issues and previous research within that subject area has so far lacked. Our varied perspectives can therefore be seen as a resource that we researchers must use to conduct new and better research within the field of teaching and learning in higher education. And that being said, it is important that we have some theories that we jointly understand and correlate to in our work. We have to remember that an essential part of being able to define a research field is that those within that field have certain theories that they are able to relate to. Simply put, a research field must be inhabited by people who speak the same language. This does not mean that we all use the same theories or even accept these theories necessarily, but they constitute a set of theories that we have to relate to and that we use to position ourselves within the field. During this course, we will review some of the most essential of these theories. Specifically, we will look at learning theories. These theories seek to explain how students receive, process, and retain knowledge during learning. The theories we will look at have different starting points and draw different conclusions regarding learning. Some look at cognitive aspects of learning, other looks at how the environment affects learning. And then there are those who look at completely different things. However, the ones we are going to look at are influential in the field. It is therefore essential that we learn them during the course. For those of you who have a degree in education, these theories will probably be familiar, but nevertheless, I think it's good to refresh your memory a little now and again. And one last thing I would like to mention. After you've learned them, even if you do not want to do research in teaching and learning in higher education, you will find them useful in your work as a teacher. This is because learning theories are able to make explicit how learning takes place, enabling teachers to adapt their teaching in a way that benefits students' learning. Moreover, they can also give you insights into how you yourself learn. This in turn will help you become a better learner, you yourself, insofar as you want to use these theories and make changes in the way that you learn. So, I therefore hope that you will enjoy this course and find it useful not only for your upcoming research within the field of teaching and learning in higher education, but also in your teaching practice. Thank you for listening. See you.